Hello, it's Tom, aka Yazirian here for Star Frontiers Gamer. Today we're talking about playing Yazirians. Now, aside from the fact that the write-up in the Alpha Dawn rulebook, the expanded rulebook on Yazirians is fairly thorough and should give you a pretty good idea, I sometimes hear people say, I just don't know how to play this alien, which is fine. So that was why we wrote the new player primer. And it was originally published in the Frontier Explorer #7. And, it's no substitute for the the write-up, the player character species write-up in the rule book. But it's a good one-page, give you an idea about Yazirians, about their culture, particularly as it's been influenced by the fans who have helped to develop it over time. So let's go right to the new player primer. First off, you get a review of the canonical material on the species, their society, issues of honor involving life enemies. I included some information on the Zamra throwing weapon, which is an honor blade for the Yazirians. It was originally published in an Ares or a polyhedron, I forget where. However, in an equipment section in a Star Frontiersman, stats for it were reprinted. So you're basically good if you can access the Star Frontiersman article, and I'll put a link in the show notes below. And then we've got the family of one is a Yazirian religion. No details are really given on it other than it controls a world. It controls the planet Hence. And it requires that everybody on the planet Hence wear a uniform that denotes their place in society and what profession they do. So it's a very top-down controlling religion. You tend to think, I've always tended to think of the family of one as something reminiscent of the Spanish Inquisition almost. And then some canonical, non-canonical materials discussed. This is fan materials. And we want to look at these in a little bit greater depth. So let's start with Yazirian clans from Star Frontiersman 8. So Star Frontiersman 8 is, this is the cover. Again, there'll be links to all of these in the show notes. And there's this fabulous article by Shadow Shack. I love this guy, the stuff he writes. And so this article basically was D100 tables for rolling up your lineage, your clan lineage. So there's a table that will send you to one of these, clan lineages, whether from Hence, Hargut, Aethor lineage, Hakosar, Histran, non-Yazirian world of origin, and completely untraceable. So there's all of these clans, and you would roll on these. So let's just grab one here. Regaria is a fierce and barbaric clan known for multiple life enemies and natural brown and tan camouflage patterns on their dans flaps. Regarian Yazirians gain a bonus of +5 to any roll to conceal themselves in the natural environment. So what you get with these different clans that you would roll up is the name of a clan. Sometimes you'll have a clan symbol is detailed. There's a little something extra in there for the player character using these clans. So I love this particular article and I highly endorse it. I don't think any of these things really unbalance the game too much. Like this one here for Hakosar. Their special thing is they wear a symbol, prancing horse-like animal. Kabarian Yazirians gain a bonus of +5 to their leadership roles with others. I would actually modify that and specify other Yazirians. So here we are at Star Frontiersman number 18. This is one of the last Star Frontiersmen I actively worked on. And although I think 19 still had some content of mine that was lingering in the submission queue. But here we want to go to the Yazirian files article. So this Yazirian files, the truth is out there. This is some artwork by me, and I wrote this I was planning on starting a regular Yazirian files feature in the Star Frontiersman. And it got preempted, of course, when I bailed and started the Frontier Explorer. So this was the first and last of this regular series on the Yazirian files. But in this issue, there'd been a number of us that had been chatting in the forums, in the starfrontiers.us forums, on the Yazirian honor code. And so I give special thanks here to Darren Rise, Iggy, Imperial Lord, the Spirit Coyote, and Woot for the collaboration to assemble all this material. Now, a lot of adages were suggested, and I organized them into 3 different categories. The way of the warrior. This is very specific to the individual. The warrior who does not contemplate is an unworthy savage. Anger is best addressed by peace. When anger rules you, your rage is weak. And when peace rules you, your rage is pure. And so on and so forth. And then we come down to the council of the clan. Ritual, and these were all adages that had been gathered that had to do with the Yazirian's relationship to his clan. And so we get things like rituals are the blood that binds us together. A clan rich in song has a great heritage, and so on and so forth. And then we come down to the 3rd chapter of the honor code, which is the perfection of honor. And, a poor clan with honor is worth 1,000 rich clans in dishonor. Save a stranger, gain a friend, save an enemy, lose an enemy, forget a friend, gain an enemy. So, all of these things were posted as suggested tenets for the honor code, and I simply organized them. Now, in no way are these meant to be the sum total of everything in the honor code. So if you're playing a Yazirian and you write a new tenet, you just add it right to this honor code. And so this is just kind of a sample, get you going type of thing. And, you might grab something out of here, and that might be your character's favorite quote from the honor code that he likes to that he likes to live by. Like when somebody has a proverb, that's their proverb they quote. Like one of my favorites is from Benjamin Franklin that says, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. I've always loved that from right out of, I believe it was right out of Poor Richard's Almanac. And so your character might have one of these tenets from the honor code that's his thing that he likes to quote. And that makes your character a little more distinctive. So the honor code is here in Star Frontiersman 18, but there's also, and the writer of this did not get credit, it's the Legend of the First Clan, and I'm pretty sure this was written by Eric Windsor. And I was just noticing that he does not get credit for this. It almost looks like I wrote it. The way, because you come up here and there's my name, and we scroll down and there's nothing here for Eric. So Eric kind of got a bum deal on this. And, and that's not cool, because Eric was a really great writer. And on the forums, it was like he would say something and I would have been thinking about it. It was like we were right and left sides of the same brain sometimes. So he wrote this cool legend of the First Clan. So here's a legend that your character may or may not know. Some more artwork done by me back in the day, just a Yazirian swinging a knife. So this is Star Frontiersman 18. And now we want to get to Frontier Explorer number 2, because in here, this is where a group of us fans chatted, and then I kind of wrote it up. The Family of One. So here we go. So this was an article. There certainly was input from other people. I kind of pulled it all together, wrote it, and so I actually got credit for writing it. So this kind of goes into that canon religion, the family of one, develops it. Um, a look at what's in the books. So it's an examination of what is in the rule books, some background written up, beliefs, and the core beliefs of this religion. All Yazirians are one. The Garden of Yazira will be replanted. Yazirians will inherit the galaxy. Now, I put in there the Garden of Yazira will be replanted because there's this thing that has evolved, this idea of a star exodus by the Yazirians when their world was destroyed by a wandering brown dwarf that entered their system. They had enough notice to know that the wandering brown dwarf was coming. Their scientists were smart enough to realize this could have serious adverse effects. And I probably should have referenced the article that Tom Stevens wrote on a wandering brown dwarf as a cosmic catastrophe, because that inspired a lot of this idea of a star exodus, which mated with certain statements in the within the canon rule books. So I went with this idea that since the family of one controls Godco, the terraforming company, and the reason why they're so into terraforming is they have brought this arc of all this genetic material from Yazira during the star exodus, and they're bent on recreating hence in the image of Yazira that was. And so that is one of the tenets of the religion, because we've gotten other statements that the Godco and the family of one do not care what happens to the existing ecosystem when they're terraforming. They just don't care, because and that's in part because they're so bent on the Garden of Yazira must be replanted. And so that's what they're attempting to do on hence. And then this third tenet here, the Yazirians will inherit the galaxy. I borrowed that right out of the Sermon on the Mount, where it said the meek will inherit the earth. And I just thought the Yazirians will inherit because they are a warlike species. So I just wanted that one in there to leave other species, leave humans, Dralacites, Versk a little bit uneasy with the Yazirians, because, we don't always have to have them be irascible and grumpy, bite people's heads off. Just the fact that this is a tenet of their religion should make people uncomfortable as well. So I went into the beliefs. I went into practices. The essential practices of the religion are summed up in the 5 talons. The Creed of Yazira recited at religious and clan observances. That would be the family of one. Oh, no, excuse me. The Creed would, the Creed is in here somewhere. The Creed of Yazira, not the honor code. So then there would be a pilgrimage to the Ark of Yazira. That's obviously based off of, pilgrimage to Mecca. I thought that would be an interesting practice, that they've brought this Ark as some sort of structure that they have on the planet hence. So you make a pilgrimage there. I also thought that it'd be a nice idea that, like, you buy a seedling, and they overcharge you, of course. You buy a seedling of like certain trees that are really special to Yazirians, and you bring it home with you as part of your pilgrimage. Planting the Yanyan tree, that's where you buy the seedling during the pilgrimage. Producing progeny, because it's the family of one. All Yazirians are one family, so you should have offspring. And then the 5th talon would be priestly vows. And again, this is kind of like the Catholic concept of a sacrament, where one of the sacraments is taking holy orders, where you become a priest or a nun. Or I had brothers who were like male nuns, but they were called brothers. They taught my high school. So that's the practices of the family of one. And then I wrote in controversies, just the ecotheism, that I wrote in these controversies, and a little bit of tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory stuff going in there a little bit. And, then, so, it's, there's quite a bit more depth. There's a lot of material there, and you don't have to use much of it. You just grab an idea and use it, with a character. Like I played a Yazirian priest who had been defrocked. He was from Hence, and he didn't like some of what he was seeing that was kind of like smacked of corruption within the family of one. And so he ended up, and he was one of their inquisitors, that would go out and find troublemakers and investigate them. And so he got kicked out. So he was a former inquisitor, former priest, and he's been defrocked, and he has left Hence, and he's wandering the frontier, kind of like Kane in the old TV series Kung Fu. And he's struggling with the fact that he's been kicked out of the priesthood. It's really impacted him personally. So that was a fun character. I actually played him twice in 2 different games because I just wasn't finished with him, and a new game was starting. And I said, "Well, here's my character." It started him over from day one, and I played him twice in 2 different games. So that was one of my favorite characters. So let's look at Star Frontiersman 15. There's actually, I do believe there's actually 2 things for us to consider in here. Number 1, you have the opiate of the Asakar. There's an alternate Yazirian religion detailed here and a Yazirian creature. So let's get to that one first. So here we are at the opiate of the Asakar. I wrote a bunch of frontier religions, and I called this article The Opiate of the Asakar after the famous quote that religion is the opiate of the masses. And so right down here, Bailorism. This is an alternate religion not approved of by the family of one, actively persecuted by the family of one, actually. And so I wrote this. It's an ancient Yazirian religion, and it had disappeared before the Star Exodus, before the unification of the planet Yazira with the imperial system and the imperial Warhan. And it was actually discussed in an ancient Yazirian text that was where we have English, and then we look at Old English. You can't even read it if you're a modern English speaker, or like Latin. And I know there's a lot of people who can read Latin, they study Latin, but it's like an old dead language, and it's got religious. It's got it's got some writings in it, and there was this like epic of Gilgamesh, or or Beowulf, the Epic of Beowulf, and Asakar from the Rim. They're linguists. There was, and they also have this thing that they like to distinct, because they're all genetically identical to each other. They distinguish themselves from all other Asakar by wearing weird clothes sometimes, but they also choose a different religion. So this Asakar linguist was reading this and translating this, the equivalent of like the Epic of Beowulf, the Epic of Baelor, and resurrected the Baelorite practices, the Baelorite religion. And it primarily involves a blood sacrifice. And the only acceptable blood sacrifice would be this creature called the Wyvol. And so I invented 2 different sets, and we got an artist. I don't see the artist's name here or his credit. I think I know, but I'd have to look it up. But this guy was great, and he exactly captured what I was envisioning for this creature. And so you can tell that it's a Yazirian type creature because it's got the Patagon wing flaps here between the arms, the front legs, and the back legs. They climb. They probably should have had sharper talons. They would climb trees, and then they jump and glide, and they circle their target. They attack like wolves. And so I invented the Wyvol, but they're also over the centuries they've developed domesticated miniature Wyvols. That's this guy in the picture. This is not a juvenile, but a full-grown miniature Wyvol. And so we created these to go along with this whole article on these different religious beliefs. And I thought it was kind of cool that you had this Asakar, alien from the rim, annoying the family of one by resurrecting this ancient religious rite that has been dead for centuries, but she has effectively resurrected it. Now, some of the Yazirians on other planets who really don't like the family of one have opted to go with this, and it's a very simple, thing where, once or twice a year you might offer a blood sacrifice, to Baelor, and so that was a fun one. Plus, we get some Yazirian creatures from their evolutionary tree, which I thought was cool as well. Then, in this particular issue, we get this little article on Yazirian literature, the art of writing fluff. And so I just kind of gas bag in here a little bit about creating fluff. I created some Yazirian literature, and then wrote some plot hooks, different things in here. And I was in a game a long time ago, back in the late 2000s, called the Black Hand Gang. It was a play-by-email Star Frontiers game. And for one particular post, I wrote this Charge of Clan Renegade poem, and basically it's the Charge of the Light Brigade, and I changed it to make it a Yazirian poem, because Charge of the Light Brigade is a favorite poem of mine, and so now this has become a favorite poem of mine, Charge of Clan Renegade. And it was kind of significant in that game in one episode, and I had a lot of fun with it. And the game master was very indulgent with me, and let me be really creative in that particular email post. And so, I've just re-included it here, and I've added other things like Romance of the Renegade. This is a history book about Clan Renegade, and it goes into some controversies. Here's another book, The Garden of Hence and the Yazirian Star Exodus, which, again, it's another history book that, character and setting might refer to. Or you just might say that you're sitting in the lounge and you see a book and it's da-da-da-da-da. So I've created some extra stuff here. Some of it's actual poems, and some of it is just, description of a book that might have information a player character might want to refer to. So this is this is just a fluff article on fluff and material for the players or the game master to use. It's called the Yazirian literature, or the art of writing fluff. And then one more in Star Frontiersman number 9. This is written by Eric Windsor. The guy I referenced is writing that Legend of the First Clan. He's written another legend here, another Yazirian legend, and so there's some substantial body of material out there for you if you're playing a Yazirian. The legends and the stories like that, they're probably last on your reading list. I would certainly start with the article on the clans, the clan article. There's nothing to read there. It's just D100. Just roll D100 a couple of times and find out what your clan is. The Family of One article gives you a lot of background, gives you a lot of material, a lot of scope there for stuff. The Honor Code, again, is a useful article for somebody playing a Yazirian, particularly if you just want to have one or two proverbs that's what your character likes to quote, or write your own and add them to the Honor Code. There are variant versions of the Honor Code, so you could rewrite that Honor Code and say, my clan doesn't follow the Code of Anesti, which is what that code is called. My clan has a slightly different version of the Code of Anesti, and you could totally rewrite that for your particular character. And then the alternate religion, of course, is fun, because the the proper blood sacrifice for that is a very nasty, dangerous little animal that will take your hand off if it gets a chance. And then the domesticated miniature wyvil, of course, could be a pet, a Yazirian pet. And then lastly, we had the honor weapons. And I didn't prep artwork, my bad. For the Zamra, there is some out there, but I didn't find it on my computer. And that's probably linked to the me getting a new computer and then losing some files in the transfer. So that's really on me. I'm going to have to look harder to find that artwork of the Zamra. But I did have some pictures that I showed of the Canon honor sword. Now, I've talked about this in a previous video, the State of the Frontier video, as a matter of fact. And so this is not a great picture of the sword, but this is a better one. And this is a Canon presentation going on here where the elders are presenting it. And so that's the Canon honor sword. It's been previously discussed. If you want to know what the stats are for it, it's the same stats as the sword in the rule book, sword or machete, except that if you're got a drawn Canon in your hands, maybe it's been presented to you by your clan, so you sense all the warriors of your clan, who have gone on before, who are watching you, and you attempt battle rage. It gives you a +5 bonus. And I hope that this inspires you. If you felt, I'm not sure about playing the Yazirians, a lot of material on the Yazirians has been developed by fans. Oh, Tom, aka Yazirian, again with the bonus content. I asserted previously in this video that I had gathered all of the Yazirian content I could find, and I was incorrect. I really needed to consult my spreadsheet a little bit more closely. And so let's just get to the one thing that I had not prepped, which was Star Frontiersman number 3. And scrolling down. Here we have, over in this corner, even a nice illustration, which was not in the original article that detailed the Zamira. I'm not sure on the pronunciation. I've called it, I've dropped the I when I've spelled this in some of my writing. So whatever. But it's the Zamira, the honor blade, but it's a throwing weapon that the Yazirians use. And so if you need details on that, you can find that in Star Frontiersman number 3. So here we have Star Frontiersman number 19, and we have 2 blasts from the past. I had done some digging through the lost internet, through the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, going back to 1999, 1998, but mostly 1999 and 2000. And there were fan websites for Star Frontiers back then. There were a bunch of them. And so I discovered these, and a lot of them had some really good content. And and you get a little content here, a little content there. Some of it was not quite enough to be a submission in the magazine. Some of it was. And so I repackaged and saved some of this material. And we usually, at least on the Frontier Explorer, we had a little graphic of a rocket taking off in the cloud, and we blast from the past, and we put it back in publication. And I often as not did not have permission from the authors to put it back in publication, but I figured they would forgive me and they would not, be upset over that. So this issue has 2 pieces of fiction. One is called Brother Flittail, and it actually reveals some details about the society and the environment and critters on the moon orbiting Yast Aethor. In the Yast system, the planet Aethor has an habitable moon. And so this short little story gives us some critters. And these critters were eventually, in other Star Frontiersmen, an artist did up illustrations for them, and then they republished them again in those issues. The Medib fly and the Drizzt stingtail, called the stingtail, and brother Flittail, I guess. And so this was a cool story, very short one. And then the other story was, I forget the name. Where are we here? For Those Who Have Fallen, on page 17. And I believe that was Matthew Crimble, who has been a fan for a long time, and he goes back to the old Star Frontiers listserv, and he's the creator of the Canon Honor Sword, which I think is really, really cool. So, Star Frontiersman 19, 2 pieces of fiction in it. Frontier Explorer number 3. This has a piece of fiction by Eric Windsor called, I believe it's Eric Windsor, called Luco's Honor. We just can double check. For Luco's Honor. Yes, Eric Iggy Windsor. And so this was a story I really liked. It had details about the about Moonworld that we don't often see. It's an underdeveloped, mostly because there's not much you could do with it, because it's supposed to be like a secret military base. So civilians really can't go there much, based off of Canon statements. But we also, but we did get to visit that in this piece of fiction, and that was cool. So very much a fan of this particular story. I loved Eric's fiction. I've loved Eric's fiction pieces over the years. So next we have the Frontier Explorer 7. And this has a piece of fiction actually by me called The Funeral. And it intersected between 2 things. My father had pretty much given me a quest to locate my uncle that I was named for, my uncle Gideon, or Uncle Jed, as he was known within the family. Hence my handle Yazirian, because of the French connection, the French Canadian oui connection going back. So Uncle Jed's resting place had been lost to the family. We did not know where he was buried. Dad knew that he died in a veterans hospital when he was living in Somerville, Mass. So those were the only clues we had. And so it was a little bit of a quest that I was on. And then I came across this little snooze story in the internet about a RAF ground crewman, veteran of World War II. So he had fought, he had fought in World War II, and he had been, confirmed bachelor. He had never married, and he died with no family. He literally had no family left, and he'd lived a good long time until 2014. So, he was in his 20s, in the 40s, and, do the math. I mean, the guy was quite old, and there was no family. And the nursing home ran an ad in the paper to, just asking if anybody would consider coming to his funeral. And this came out at the same time that I was on this quest to locate my uncle. And so they kind of intersected. And what happened was that British military, American military stationed in Britain, British police, British fire, all of these people showed up en masse, hundreds of them. And it was a beautiful thing, and it was a beautiful story, and it touched me because, Uncle Yazirian was a veteran of Pearl Harbor. He was laying in his bunk that morning when bullets came through the wall, literally like right above him, from the Japanese Zeros. And so I was very touched, and I wrote this story in that time period. It's kind of what moved me to write this particular story. The Funeral, as a story, explores a Yazirian who is living in human society because he is clanless. He doesn't have a clan. He's one of those clanless Yazirians that are kind of ostracized second-class citizens within Yazirian society. And he is a veteran of the Great Southar War, what we also know as Southar War, the First Southar War. And the story opens with the funeral of a human veteran that he was close with, that they were brothers in arms. And the funeral's not going well. And so there's some Yazirian customs kind of thing that kind of crop up a little bit. And so we explored that, and we explored the impact of this human veteran who never had any children, and his only responsible living relative is a niece who doesn't have much connection or interest in him as well. So it was a fun story, and I enjoyed it, and it had a very personal connection for me. So one of my favorite pieces of fiction. I just happen to have written it. We have here Frontier Explorer number 10, and it has another blast from the past story. This one is called Shades of the Blade. I believe it was written by Darren Patton. It's a very short, like one page of fiction, and then some plot hooks, some plot hook ideas for you. And so I had discovered this in the lost internet and saved it and republished it here. And at the time, I tried to get a hold of the author, but failed. So he has never come back and complained. So I guess we're good, that we put his material back in publication, because I just felt it should be accessible. And then the final one is Frontier Explorer 23, and we have another piece of fiction by Eric Windsor called Grok the White One. It explores legends that predate the Star Exodus, that predate, going way back in time in the Yazirian history on their home planet. And so Grok the White One was a piece of fiction that he did in Frontier Explorer number 23. And again, I'm going to put all these links in the show notes before, if you want to access any of this material. I think Yazirians are great. I hope this material helps you playing Yazirian. If you feel a little challenged, don't be. Yazirians they're great, and they're a lot of fun, and I have certainly enjoyed playing them over the years. So I hope you enjoy this material. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. Please give us a like and subscribe if you can. Helps with the algorithm. We appreciate that. And I will see you in the frontier.